Now over now to Nick in Staffordshire, the scene of some quite remarkable World War I finds. Nick.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Sarah. Yes, plans to mark the centenary of the start of the First World War in 1914 are well underway across the region. I mean, every town, village, city has a story to tell. Such was the nature of the conflict. But actually, I'm on Cannock Chase right now in Staffordshire, as you gathered, which is really well known for its beautiful scenery and the herds of deer running free across its 25,000 acres of parkland. But during World War I, you won't believe 500,000 soldiers were based here. They trained here, they lived here. They were in camps the size of small towns. And one of them was actually Brockton, which is where I am right now. Now, as you look around, you'll see teams of volunteers and archaeologists beavering away, trying to uncover a lost relic from that time. It's an extraordinary 3D model which stretches all around this considerably sized field, and it was used to show soldiers of the time the sort of terrain they would face when they went out to France and Flanders. Louise Briley has been following their progress.
Hidden for 60 years underground, archaeologists and volunteers are carefully exposing an important part of Staffordshire's history.
It's going to help us really tell the story of the site and of Cannock Chase's role in the Great War. That role is an important one, and the model itself is absolutely crucial. It's the only surviving Great War terrain model in this country.
Two huge military training camps were based on Cannock Chase during the First World War. This mock-up was built here after the successful Battle of Messines in Belgium in 1917. This is a scale model of the town of Messines. It's roughly the size of 2 tennis courts, and it was used to train troops for the front line. The model is very detailed. You can still make out trenches, roads and buildings, but some of it has been damaged over the years. It surprised one of the volunteers, who himself has recently served in the army.
We still use models. I mean, it'd be a small pit, maybe a few feet wide, but nothing on this sort of scale.
The team are also delighted at how much of the Messines model survives.
In areas where we know that there was just a scree rather than a proper concrete surface, that's degraded, so we've lost that. But at the moment, in the areas that we're looking at, we've got incredible survival.
The excavation is expected to take another 3 weeks. It will then be scanned and photographed in the smallest detail and reburied to preserve it for future generations. Louise Briley, BBC Midlands Today, Cannock Chase.
With me now is an amateur historian who actually discovered this site in the first place, Richard Pursehouse. Richard, how did this actually happen?
Purely by accident, over here walking the dog one Sunday morning and bent down to pick up a stick to throw. Wasn't a stick, piece of concrete, little bit of a dig. Thought there's something not quite right here, and brought my friend Lee Dent with me, another member of the Chase project, and we dug some of this, and then we stopped.
And got into trouble.
A cease and desist from the council. So, but we've been researching ever since.
Yeah. Did you have any idea at the time what it was?
We had once you start looking at trenches, zigzag trenches and Greco, which is the square
Because
trenches.
you are a historian, so you're interested in this sort of thing.
Yes, ever since I was a child, yes.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, just briefly describe what we can see over there. Some of the detail is remarkable, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, these are the second and reserve trenches of the Germans, with the front over here. And then you've got a roadway across here, but you've also got some contour lines. And if you see the thick area that turns and swirls round, that's actually a light trench railway to bringing munitions and food to the front.
We found it quite exciting.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the research is even more exciting.
Yeah,
so,
I bet. Richard, thanks very much for talking to us.
No problem.
Thanks a lot. Well, here in Staffordshire, they'll be making the most of marking the centenary of the start of the First World War with a Great War Trail. Now, this is going to take in key sites that are associated with the conflict, a conflict that many thought was going to be the war to end all wars because of the horrific number of casualties. Here's Bob Hockenhull.
Hundreds of thousands of soldiers were sent out from Staffordshire to fight in the trenches during the Great War, so it's fitting the county is now such a focal point for remembering their sacrifices.
Nobody's forgotten here, and we hope that people will come from all around the world to remember the fallen.
The National Memorial Arboretum at Olrewas is already home to striking tributes to First World War soldiers.
Every year people from Australia and New Zealand come to Staffordshire to commemorate the Gallipoli campaign.
This solitary tree is grown from an acorn found on the Somme battlefields, and this memorial represents the 306 soldiers shot at dawn for refusing to fight.
It commemorates a group of men who have been beyond the pale for many years and now brought into the fold.
These poignant memorials are to become part of an official Staffordshire First World War trail to mark the conflict centenary, linking areas of the county forever associated with the period. Those in charge of the project say Cannock Chase alone has hundreds of war stories to tell.
It's very peaceful here, Chris, but it wouldn't have been like this during the First World War, would it?
It wouldn't. It would have been a hive of activity, troops practising for the Western Front, throwing hand grenades, digging trenches, practising sniping skills.
500,000 soldiers were trained on the chase.
Some of the best archaeology on the First World War is here on Cannock Chase, and although it's hidden, there's a really strong story to tell, so we're looking at imaginative ways to tell that story.
The trail will also take visitors to 2 cemeteries on the chase. Scores of New Zealanders stationed here died, not in battle, but in the great influenza epidemic at the end of the war. German prisoners of war expecting to be freed watched in horror as the illness spread. As for the local men who made the ultimate sacrifice, their bravery is remembered at the Staffordshire Regiment Museum near Lichfield. Here, as part of the commemorations, they're planning to carry out mock recruitments in several towns as part of a living history project.
They thought it was like an adventure, and nobody realised, or very few people realised, it was going to be a long war. Our team would like to set up a recruiting stand in different towns, get people to recruit, sign a form of attestation, have a quick medical, and show people what it was like.
Nearly 100 years may have passed, the last soldiers have died, but what they did for county and country will live on during the coming centenary. Bob Hockenall, BBC Midlands Today.
It's all fascinating stuff, it really is. But for now, it's back from Cannock Chase to you, Sarah, in the studio.
Yeah, thank you. Now, back in the